You like making me nervous?
It's easy.
Oh God. No more. Stop. Don't be an idiot.
And the geese who are like...
Is that what that noise was? I heard a weird noise and I was like, what's
shotgun.
going on?
No, this.
That you were doing that.
That was me to get your attention. And the lake. It's like a sheet of glass.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
So cool.
It's beautiful.
What's this called? Watson Lake.
Mm-hmm. Watson Lake.
Got any questions?
Well, what do you want to tell me?
Rocks.
Just rocks.
Well, I haven't got a microphone. Come on then!
Oh, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
You want to know my name?
Yes.
Well, because you've forgotten. My name is Nathan Hassall. I'm from Horsham, England. I studied a history degree at the University of Kent, and at the same university a master's in creative writing with a focus on poetry. I'm talking to my wonderful wife, Rachael Hassall, who I married about 6 months ago. Glad they joined. My predominant creative output is poetry, although I do like to draw as well.
So Nathan, it sounds like you're pretty into poetry.
Yeah, I would say it borders on absolute obsession. Sometimes can be really obsessive with it. Writing, editing, reading about it, wanting to read you. Catchphrase. Rachel, I wrote a poem today. And the joke is that I'm like Woody from Toy Story, and you pull the string back, and when it lets go, it's like, what is it that you said to me? You looked at me in the kitchen and went, there's a snake in my boots. Sorry, I should let you say your punchline.
No, it's okay. Who's your favorite poet?
Oh my goodness me. Well, it's hard to find favourites, but I think this is because it was really recent that I read it again. Alice Oswald is up there with my favourite contemporary poets. She wrote a collection called Falling Awake, which inspired my master's dissertation or thesis. We call it thesis in America, dissertation in England. That was a collection of poetry around third person / first person kind of confusion subjects called Sleeper. So she's right up there. Mary Oliver, I read some of her today, and she's kind of ecstatic, nature, reveler.
Reveler.
Yeah, she revels in it. She's wonderful. For writing about poetry, Kathleen Raine is an English poet. I think she went to Cambridge. She kind of really argues for how poetry kind of like builds cities in our minds, and that the poet that writes like the most beautiful poems, almost in a platonic sense, which I know by reading, not by understanding fully, so I couldn't go into what platonic. That you're building, when you're writing like a great poem, you're kind of building a cathedral in the city, rather than other poems which might serve necessary functions in a city but be less spectacular. You know, most poets or anyone that's into art won't write many, if any, truly kind of transcendental pieces. I think the poet needs to experience in and of themselves and not just write abstractly about it, but then also need the craft to kind of capture that idea and translate it to someone else so they can also have that sort of experience from it. There are so many other poets that I can't probably think of off the top of my head that are great. I'm used to being on the spot. I'm actually quite bad when people ask who my favourite poets are, because I read really widely, but like probably more of a generalist than a specialist. You get some poets that like know like everything about someone's work.
Yeah.
And they can like write books and books on just like that one poet because they're like know that, as well as others, but like so spectacularly. I'm probably less. I like music. Anyway,
Nice.
Bosquet's a great poet too, so I guess I come up with another one. He writes lots of essays on just like joy, and it's about gratitude. A lovely thing he captures that I find more difficult to capture.
Am I making you nervous with these questions?
No, I like them. I would love for more, to be honest.
So what inspires you, Nathan?
To write poetry?
Or when do you feel the most inspired?
When my head is clear, and not always, sometimes the morning affects it. Sometimes I'm most inspired in the morning. Sometimes maybe because I've stretched or I've had caffeine, so I've got energy. Maybe, I mean, the natural world, love, grief, fear, laughter, like connections with people, sunsets. The ocean, I've lived by it for a while, so it's soaked its way in. The forest, England and nostalgia, and the trees and the field and the roots, the rivers and streams, which is the same for this fine country with multitudinal faces. America, that is.
It's hard to tell where we are. We could be on the moon.
We should go to the moon.
We should. It's on my list.
So yeah, for what I'm inspired by, it's almost an everythingness, and also I think what a lot of my poetry changed to, and what took away the block of writing, were spiritual, transformative, transmutational, whatever you want to call them, experiences that kind of changed my outlook on life, my engagement with my own emotions. It feels like knowledge of the world. You know, it's up for debate between what's delusion and what's genuine, like, insight. The poems allow you to capture the insight as faithfully as possible in words, whereas other forms of writing wouldn't. Although, even in as faithfully as possible, as its age-old problem of poetry can't truly capture anything. It's distortion and abstraction. A lie, you know, you can fatten details into poems sometimes. You know, you want to stay, I always think of it like, you want to stay true to the feeling, the fact of the feeling, but not necessarily the facts that surround it. So, I don't know, if the car down there is beige or it's blue in your poem, it's less important. It's more important that it serves the poem that it's in, and what might sound better and what colour might be more stark, and what serves what you're writing about, than actually sticking to the exact fact of the external physical world.
What feeling do you want people to have after reading your poetry?
You're asking my ego or the deeper part of me?
Both.
Well, to be transparent, the ego wants to be clapped.
Right.
It begs. I say it like I to distance myself from it, but it's like, I think it's easier to talk about from that perspective, and maybe it'll give me a better insight. But it kind of begs for recognition. It's simultaneously in my head. It's like, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks, and then you're like, I care so bad. Like this is gonna destroy me. And then when it happens, it never destroys you. Like the fear of the thing can destroy you more. But so my ego wants to be like, oh, that's really great. And I mean, you know, of course that's nice. If anyone says they don't want that, I don't care. I just write poems, I put them out there. Oh, people are talking good about me. That's just the ego playing a different role. So either way, we're being egotistical, just in there, I don't care, egotistical, or I really care, or whatever. Anyway, the deeper part of me cares more about, and what I want poetry to do is create genuine change, or genuine, what did Owen Barfield call it? A felt change in consciousness, so that when you read a poem and experience the poem, it can like cause a literal, physical change in the sense that it's causing a mental change, but by like rejigging or creating new neural pathways. For example, by using a novel metaphor. If there's a metaphor between two things that you've never thought about before, it becomes vivid again. I read in a book the other day about, this is going to be a really bad paraphrase, but it was like, my dad's shield is like the sun. And then it makes you think of the shield being circular, for example, and blazing, but then it also reminds you that the sun is circular and blazing. Now, if someone turned around and was like, the sun was really hot, if you get any image, it's like flat. But if you get the fresh image, which the Shield one did for me, because it wasn't cliched to me, it brings to life not only the Shield, it also brings back to life the sun, which, let's be honest, the most of the time it's out, you barely even notice. And oh, it's sunny, that's it. You don't think about, wow, that's a like burning celestial object, which is technically a tiny star way far over there in space at a perfect distance that it creates a Goldilocks zone so that we can have trees and animals and people to contemplate itself. Went completely off topic from the original question, and I'm sometimes quite good at bringing it back, but memory is not doing as well as the rambling.
No, it's great. What's next for you in poetry and in life?
Poetry, it's a perpetual process. So I'm always writing it, reading it, and all that other stuff that I already said. But next is, I constantly collect work together. But I think I'm on the right track. And, poetry belongs to everyone. If you have language, you have poetry. It's universal. It's for everyone to read, for everyone to write. Despite what some poets sometimes think, when at the end of the day it's like, well, you can write one of the greatest poems ever, or you can write one of the most sentimental, soppy poem about someone you love, or a sad one about a breakup, and be as cliche as you want. It's your right. You can there's no right or wrong. Granted, some might not translate as well to a reader, so that's a secondary concern when writing something, occasionally having multiple drafts of it, and some drafts to kind of keep with yourself, or potentially someone really close, but the final draft maybe looks a bit different. And not just because you don't fully believe in your work necessarily, more that it needs to translate. There's different ways the poem can be told, and you settle on a final draft feeling, yeah, this is finished, and then it gets cracked back open.
My hands are starting to freeze off, though. So any other thoughts or burning things that you have to tell everyone before we go?
Besides the sun.
And by everyone, I mean you and me watching this back.
This is my serious sitting position. To those who are curious or interested or don't like poetry, to see the parts of your life that poetry crops up and becomes relevant. Wedding, death, birthday card, even if they're a little bit overly sentimental. To recognize that in the most important times of your life, you seek, not just the poetry, but poetry is one of the things you seek to put the expression or the emotion to a type of word that you can understand. So to remember that it holds an extremely important function in society, even though a lot of us can say, it's just some fucking la-di-da rhyme, it's not doing anything productive for society, fuck it. Or that's a pretty fun little hobby, but part of it is, but it's, it has a serious role to play in society in the same way a judge has a serious role to play in society, or a policeman, or a cook, or a cleaner, or whatever else. So I think to not just respect the art, but give it more of a go. Things can only be, and this is the dreamer side of me, but the world can only be better by a larger interest in art and poetry, because it deepens empathy and captures things that are so true. There might not be any other way to experience it. So, and if you're not as open to it, maybe, you might just not like it, and that's fair enough, but maybe also your ego's afraid of what it can bring up for you, because it can be kind of scary to have things kind of ripped off. So that's my last ramble, and I love the woman who was holding the camera, and I will also say, would you like to say any closing thoughts, and would you like me to take the camera and film you for it?
Here.
Give your arms a rest too.
Hands are so cold.
So,
The only thing I want to say is my husband is much too clever for me.
my ego's doing the clapping.
This has been fun.
Thanks for the
Cannot
questions.
feel my body.
Because I love you.
Love you too. Bye.